Hi, and thanks for joining me for this sourcing webinar. We're going to look at one specific job requirement and analyze it. We will analyze the technical vocabulary, we will analyze the role itself, and then dive deeper to how to actually find the specific IT professional. So let's dive right in. Good to see you guys here again. So today we are going to focus on an interesting position, which is the Next.js developer. So I'll just wait for the rest of us to connect. It may take a while, like we are probably some of us in this holiday mood. How do you guys feel today? React.js, no Next.js, React.js is the old name for React. So now it's just React and Next.js. And to give you some more context, this client of ours actually 2-3 weeks ago came with this requirement to look for a front-end React developer. So obviously we sat down online on Zoom. We dive deeper to what are his requirements, what is so special about the team and company, and everything as I usually suggest. And everything went well. We identified the must-have skills and nice-to-have skills. And after we and some of you guys also submitted a few like really cool candidates, they started interviewing these candidates, and then like he pretty much rejected all of them, like it's good, but he doesn't know Next.js. And then another one, I don't know, like this is good also, he knows everything, but he doesn't know Next.js. And I'm like, okay, well, but is it a must-have requirement to know Next.js? And then after the fourth candidate, he actually realized that it is really a must-have, and it doesn't really make sense to hire someone who does not know Next.js. So then we reframed pretty much the same openings, just adjusted the must-have skill to be Next.js also. And now you can also see it in the title. So Next.js React developer. So just to include both of these important keywords. So React is the front-end framework. Next.js is also a framework. I'll show you later also a related mind map, and I'll dive deeper. So for now, I'll just show you the content of the JD. We don't have to cover pretty much everything, but I just want to show you these must-have skills right now. So before it was just experience with developing front-end websites with React and obviously JavaScript, but now we enhance that this is also a must-have requirement. It does no longer make sense to submit someone who does not know Next.js. So I know some of you guys are also our partners in when it comes to recruitment. So you are submitting candidates, so you already have access to this one. And just keep in mind that Next.js. And then the question is, what does it really mean? So when we are screening candidates, we are using them. Have you used Next.js in production? Because some people just experiment with it. Some people just create some fun projects, and there were some candidates who applied, and then I was on a call with them. They said, yeah, I know of Next.js, it's a really cool framework, and then I asked them, so how did you actually use it? Have you used it in a production environment, in a production project? I was like, oh, no, it's just I have some fun project or pet project. So that was not that kind of a level of experience that the CTO is looking for. So that's why it's important to phrase the question so it's really straightforward, and it gives you an idea if the candidate is a good fit or not. Okay, so have you used Next.js in a production environment, in a production product or project? So this reveals a lot about the candidate, if he is a good fit or not. And then pretty much you don't have to ask about React, because Next.js is built on top of React. So someone who knows Next.js also knows React. So you pretty much can skip this question also. I know, can you do React? Because if someone can use Next.js, then they can use React. So I'll show you in this mind map, there is this JavaScript development landscape, and it's really cool sometimes to just look at it. If you guys have it on your desk, I always keep it somewhere here, in the booklet, to remind me some of these frameworks and tools and all these languages and frameworks these IT professionals use. And now you can also see that I enhanced it with Next.js because it's a relatively new framework, and I thought it could be a good idea to now include it in this new version of the new mind map. So you can see it here, and it's not just a framework, but it's built on top of. And now the question is, on top of what? It's actually based on top of both Node.js and React, but yeah, I don't want to confuse you too much, and it's probably not as important, the fact that it's also built on top of Node.js. So long story short, Next.js can be used both to create some backend APIs and also front-end. It's much more frequently used on the front-end side, so on top of React, which is also the case they use in this particular company. It's like an evolution, one could say. So React was cool, and it still is, but in the last few months or a year roughly, there has been a little shift to Next.js because it's cool, it has some new features, and developers just like to adopt what is working for some other companies. So also this client of ours uses Next.js. So that's why it's good to zoom in only to those candidates who have already used it in some other project. And it really doesn't make sense to ask about 2 years experience with Next.js because it's not as old, so that people could have 2 or 3 years of experience with Next.js. It's even 6-month experience or 3-month experience with some production level system would be sufficient. But it cannot just be some weekend project the candidate has created. Okay, so that's why this requirement. And then the question obviously is, how do we find this candidate? Should we use React or Next.js? And there is also this set of screening questions, so you can see, and I really like to do this also for me when I'm screening candidates, but also for you guys when you are screening candidates for your positions. Like, I would totally recommend always to write these screening questions even before you start talking to the first candidates, because you will know what to ask. You will be able to quickly select those who are potentially a good fit and those who are not. So you can see it right here. Have you used Next.js in production? It's a question. Someone just answer yes or no. They can say yes, it was a 3-month or 6-month long project for me. And sourcing keywords, Next.js, that's obvious, right? We are only looking for someone who uses Next.js. So in this case, doesn't really make sense to start with something broad like front end or React only, right? Because it would be way too broad. That was the previous one where Next.js was just a nice to have. But now it is a must-have. So I would zoom in to Next.js and then probably a few iterations. So for example, Next.js and React, or Next.js and front end, right? So just to slightly increase the pool. However, someone who uses Next.js, they also know how to use React, just because, as I mentioned, Next.js is based on React and also Node.js. It's quite complicated, right? It doesn't get easier in IT because of all these evolutions and all these new tools that developers start adopting. So it's just good to know about some of these frameworks and tools. So screening questions, really cool. I suggest you guys start using this also when introducing some new JD to your colleagues. That's what we always do, identify these screening questions. And then with this, we also can submit to the client. Cool. So have you guys looked for a Next.js front-end specialist before? Just let us know in chat. Where is chat now? It disappeared on my end. Has any of you guys looked for a front-end developer who uses Next.js? No one yet? No one? Nobody with Next.js? Juliana, oh yeah, you even submitted one, right? React only, Elizabeth. Yeah. So and the thing is that it's getting increasingly more popular. So also developers will adopt it more and more. So we can expect also to see this more frequently on their profiles. So if we go to LinkedIn, and I would look for just this keyword, right? Next.js. If I start really broad, so let's open up the first one. Václav Stumer. Just to see in what context this is. So full stack engineer, full stack, and he has it in his skills. So let's see what else. TypeScript, yes, of course, TypeScript. And sometimes in these mind maps, I simplify it a little also with TypeScript because TypeScript is also an extension of JavaScript. So it is a more strict version of JavaScript. It's been created by Microsoft. So Microsoft has developed TypeScript as the standalone language based on JavaScript. So developers who know TypeScript, they also know JavaScript because it's, as I mentioned, some extension. So equally, Next.js is an extension of React. Okay, so TypeScript and Next.js. What else can we see? Express.js. It's on the backend. React, of course. So even if his profile is quite plain, well, we see that he started from full stack development only 2-3 years ago. Before he was more into some engineering part. So probably he just learned it in the last half year in this position. I mean Next.js. Let's try someone else. Web developer with Next.js, React, TypeScript. He has it written in his headline right here. So he's using Next.js with React. React is the front-end framework. TypeScript is the language. So it's like JavaScript, but the extension of JavaScript. Also with Angular, and Angular has been created in TypeScript. So now it gets really complicated because, for example, React can be used with JavaScript, but React can also be used with TypeScript. But Angular, I don't think it can be used with JavaScript because Angular itself has been created with TypeScript. So it's like really complicated now, but hopefully through these simple mind maps or connections, it will get easier eventually, because you don't really need to know all these details. Like I don't even know details myself because I haven't really used it for the last 3, 4, 5 years, and some of these technologies are completely new. We just need to be able to quickly decide who is a good fit based on what we can see. So this is clearly a front-end developer. He uses React front-end, Angular front-end, but also Java on the backend with Spring Boot. So he is full stack developer, right? So he uses the standard, relatively standard, straightforward stack on the backend. So Java, Hibernate, Java server faces. This is all that you can also find in those mind maps as the relatively standard, the most common technical stack when it comes to Java, especially Java web development, Java enterprise. And he also works maybe part-time for some other company, all day digital. He is working as a front-end developer in this case, most likely. So he's rewriting all the application into a new one using Next.js framework. So, and this is quite common. I mean, at some point, these legacy applications need to be rewritten, and there is this cool new framework that everyone is raving about. So it just makes sense to use it. So we can expect more and more developers to use this framework going forward. And then also some other frameworks become obsolete. Like there are countless other frameworks, like I don't know, Backbone. I already dropped it from this mind map because it's considered as legacy into a large extent. jQuery is still used, even though it's by far not as popular as it used to be, but it is still widely used. But there are many other frameworks in JavaScript that are not as popular by any means as they used to. So these are the most popular. Angular, React, you guys all know this, but Next.js is the new and hot one. Okay. So what we could also do is also to look at some alternatives. So for example, not just as keywords, but identify those who have Next.js in skills. Or I also noticed just sort of randomly that there is an alternative to Next.js, just in a different framework. And at first I thought it's a typo, but then I figured out that there is it's not a typo really, but it's a real thing, which is called very similarly, to confuse you even further. So I'll show you. Okay, so the keyword the keyword would be it's not highlighted anywhere. Well, I'll need to open up one of these profiles and hopefully it will be there. So wait a second. Here it is. It's just not highlighted for some reason. So you can see it right here, Next.js, which at first I thought it's a typo, like it should be Next.js, but then I realized that it's actually not a typo, and it's alternative to Next.js, but not based on React, but rather based on Vue.js. So that's why there is U. Okay, so I'll type it here in chat. So React Next.js and Vue.js Next.js. It's really crazy, right, with these JavaScript frameworks. And what's best? That one of those candidates we submitted to the CTO for this Next.js position. So one of these candidates that he even invited for an interview eventually has not used Next.js, but he has used Next.js. So they are very similar. They have pretty much the same architecture. It's just based on a different framework. So even to my surprise, like this candidate who used Next.js was a good fit for Next.js. So quite cool, right? So effectively, the sourcing string should be also say Next.js or Next.js, as I just typed in chat. Next.js or Next.js. Okay, because someone who used Next.js could be also a good fit. And then the question is, what are some alternatives to how developers pronounce or type Next.js? So sometimes it is with dot, sometimes it is without a dot. So it could be, for example, like just Next.js, together, or Next.js together. Let's see. I'll show you. So I'll, for example, Next.js. And I, for example, noticed this pattern when communicating with the CTO. He also just typed it without the dot, and like it feels like a subtle difference. But as you can see, sometimes you need to tell LinkedIn who to look for and give them all these alternatives, because LinkedIn would just return those who have the exact string, so next.js. But if you have next.js or next.js, well, then you would see more developers as a result. You can see it right here. So next.js, I'll open up his detail. So it expands even further. So Next.js or Nux.js or Next.js without the dot. Okay, so this would be the sourcing string. You can see it right here, Next.js. Okay, also React. Some developers type just React, and some developers type React.js. So what do you do? Well, you type React or React.js. It is what it is. You can see it all here, right? Next.js, Next.js, Next.js. Who else? Also here, Next.js. Serhan Guni, Next.js. So he knows React, obviously. He started using Next.js. He uses TypeScript. Okay, so programming languages, either JavaScript or TypeScript, frameworks, React, and Next.js on top of it. So far, I love the flexibility of Next.js and the power of Firebase together. Okay, so again, probably if you just looked for Next.js, you would not find this candidate. So it's good to keep these differences in mind, because some developers type it with dot, some developers type it without a dot, and LinkedIn may not consider all these variations. So it's up to us to enter this in the keyword box. What else? Do you guys see any other pattern or some other way how to identify? So in this case, for example, we would be looking for someone who has been coding at least for like 4 years, probably at least 4 years. So say 4 years, 4 5, and not too senior because the budget is not too crazy. So probably people with 10-15 years of experience would not be interested anymore. Can select seniority level. Yeah. I'm not sure if it really works well when it comes to these, because usually seniority is like manager, right? Or C-level executive, which works well when we look for example, a CTO, right? Like 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago when we looked for a CTO, like we used the seniority. In this case, I don't know, I like senior probably we could choose. Maybe this, if that's what you meant. Because practically we are looking for some mid-level developer, so work experience 4 or 5 years. So and it depends on the definition who is a senior, of course. But in this case, it's more like a meteor kind of a role, meteor to senior. Like they would love to get a senior, but the budget is not that huge. So we could select senior probably. Yeah, that's the only reasonable choice from here. Not unpaid, not partner, not VP, not training, not director, not manager, not CXO, owner, entry level also not. So just senior. Yeah, that makes sense. Someone 4 to 11 years of experience. And of course, when it comes to skills, like React, that's a no-brainer. But also, what's next? Like looking at the mind map, we could choose some other of these more advanced libraries within the modern technical stack. So, for example, Redux is one of these libraries that are used usually together. React, Redux, plus Next.js. So we can include it here. So Redux, so yeah, right here, the second one. And location, well, in this case, it doesn't really matter. Like they don't have any like strict preference about the location. It's just the money would not be enough for someone in the UK or in the United States. And the time zone difference would be way too substantial for someone, for example, in India. Or there was one candidate I interviewed from China, actually. He was a good fit relatively. It's just 6 hours time zone difference. That's quite substantial. So most likely within Europe, right? So I'll not choose these countries one by one for now, just not to waste too much time with you guys looking at me ticking all these boxes. And Irma wrote, in fact, it's difficult to select seniority level because a person must be very senior in Java and junior in Next. Yes, of course. That's a huge disadvantage of LinkedIn, right? They don't have these levels of experience when it comes to a particular technology. So that's well, I'm sure they are well aware of it. It's just the limitation, and maybe they don't want to overkill it. But in an ATS, actually, there is it depends on what do you use. But like for example, in our ATS, there is an option to keep track of when has the person started with React. So you can then select someone based on the seniority. So keywords, for example, Next.js, or even skill, like I would include it here, Next.js. And now, what do we actually want to do now is to zoom in, not zoom out. So now, since I would like to find like some really good candidate, I would type here, so Next.js and React and Redux. So ideally, someone who has all these three. So Next.js and React and Redux. So what about this one? Someone who is senior. So senior front-end React developer. He uses React, Redux, all these modern tools. Also Next.js. In this case, he wrote Next space JS. So you know what? I'll include it in this string also. Or Next.js. It's quite funny, right? In Colombia, the time difference is more than 3 hours. Yeah, well, most likely that will not be a good fit. That's a fair point. So probably I should really select some of these. And you see like how much easier it would be if LinkedIn also had some groups of countries based on the time zone, because now with remote work, it doesn't really matter if the person is in, I don't know, Hungary or Slovakia or Poland, right? It's just within one region, within one time zone. So you don't have to type here 20 countries, but let's just do it. I'll just type Poland as the first country, which could be a good fit. Salary wise, it could also be a very reasonable upside. So 159, which is great. So let's open up the first one. And again, this happened. Guys, you need to tell me if I'm just typing and you cannot see it, because by default, Zoom has this option to only send messages to panelists, and it's just so annoying. So I was typing all this text and you guys couldn't see it, right? So I'll just copy paste it again. Sorry. So just let me know when you cannot see it. Yeah, now you can. Yes. So the source string will be this one. This is the longest. So Next.js or Nux or Next or Next.js with space. Okay, so I'm looking at, oh, hi Mocht, you also joined, very cool. I hope it will work out with Sebastian. Such a great candidate, right? Amazing. So I work with Node.js, React, React Native. He used Next.js, cool, for about 8 months. Yeah, that will be enough. So he focuses on front-end development for quite some time. So he shifted from PHP. So he was a web developer, according to those, mind maps, as I have outlined, these web developers and then backend, front-end, custom web developers. So he was a web developer with a content management system called WordPress. He used PHP, CMS, content management, WordPress, and then he shifted to custom web development with JavaScript and React, Node.js on the backend. So since 2016. So this is really cool. We have someone with 5 years of experience, someone who used Next.js for 8 months. So that's great. That's really cool. React Native, and he's been in this company just for 5 months. Last time, maybe you guys remember, we were skipping some of those candidates who have just started recently in a company, even though actually there was one candidate I was talking to last week and he was still in his notice period, and he was like, oh wow, this looks so good, I'm in, just let me know what are the next steps. And I mean, like, but you just started, right? I was like, yeah, I'm still in notice period. I mean, not notice, but at the beginning of the work, what is it called, trial period, right? So so some people are just so opportunistic, they are keen to hop from one company to another. So he could be a good fit. He's in Poland, great time zone, but he's been here just for 5 months. It's quite unlikely he would leave. So let's try someone else. Gregor Dunin Splecek, senior developer. Unfortunately, we cannot see what technologies has he worked with. It will be probably here in skills. Yeah, it is. But we cannot see for how long he has been using what technology. So let's just skip him for now. We could definitely approach him and ask, hey, we see you have experience with Next.js. I wanted to ask for how long, or for how long have you been coding? But anyway, he was a local technical leader. Looks not such a good fit. Like this Alexei, very cool, but let's keep looking for someone even better. You submitted Alexei, very cool, cool. We will check it out. So Matej, React, Next.js. So a year experience with Next.js, TypeScript, React, that's great. And even before he used Next.js, that's very cool. So one of those early adopters, so that's great. And since 2018, he has also been working on the front end, and he started as a junior front-end developer in 2017. So it's 18, 19, 20, 21. So 4 years. Yeah, like it's actually really cool. That's very cool. He used React, Redux, all these. He ticks all these boxes. So for how long? For 1 year. So probably even a better fit than Alexei before. Because Alexei was slightly more senior, 5 years, if you recall, but he has just started in this company, and he's a lead software engineer. Actually, I just noticed it now. So most likely he would not leave this job as a lead to become front-end developer. It would be sort of a step down. So now when I'm thinking about it, it's not such a good fit. I'll close him. But Matej is or seems to be a good fit because he is not a team lead. He is a senior front-end developer. So nice, very straightforward career path from a junior, mid-year, senior, and now we can send him some nice message to get him interested in our new opportunity. Quite cool, right? So we have someone who could be a good fit. What do we send him? Do you guys have any ideas? What could we send him, and how do we approach this? This is one of the most interesting part, at least for me now during these webinars, right? Like to brainstorm the message, what to send, and how to approach it. How to type something that actually stands out, because he may receive 5 messages every day. So we don't just want to send him like, hey Matej, here is the link, click on it and apply. He would be like, oh, who cares, right? So let's look at the JD again. And I also like to start the JD with a question, because then I can just copy paste the question to a message. Would you like to work remotely for an exciting, well-funded fintech startup and create a leading data aggregation platform? Yeah, actually, yeah, that sounds good, right? Our partner is a funded fintech startup that builds a data aggregation platform. You'll be working on the platform which fetches data from different sources, aggregates, calculates, and then displays data on the website. And what you can see here, by the way, while we are on it, you can see that I use very straightforward language, something that is really easy to understand for someone who looks at it. Because usually the job descriptions are full of this marketing and PR fluff, lots of very sophisticated sentences, but people just don't understand it, right? You just skim through it and you don't understand, and that's why, at first sparkle some curiosity, some little hook at the beginning. Would you like to work remotely for an exciting, well-funded startup? Yeah, well, most likely yes. And create a leading data aggregation platform? Of course, yes. Our partner is a funded fintech startup that builds a data aggregation platform. Like super straightforward. Fintech startup data aggregation platform. As a Next.js React developer, you would be working on the platform, which fetches data from different sources and then aggregates, calculates, and then displays on the website. So super straightforward. Like, my kids could understand it, probably, hopefully. Maybe not Next.js, React, but the rest, hopefully. I'll check it out. I'll try it out tomorrow. Yeah, this is a little off topic anyway. So what is interesting about it? It's a startup. It's based in Germany. The team is fairly small. 8 people, including the CTO who codes too. So just looking at, for example, his current job right now, he's working on some application, creating components from the company's CMS, creating brand websites, support external teams. Yes, please, Sylvia, tell us how. And meanwhile, I will open it up here and I can write him something. Others, guys, if you also would like to contribute with your message, what would you write? Feel free to type in chat. It's better when we all practice, not just me, right? So what do I write? Something that and obviously it's the hardest is the first one, and then as soon as you have the template, then you just copy paste it to the others with slight adjustments for each. So Sylvia wrote, below is everything you need to know about this cool opportunity. Oh, this is just the part of the message you like to use bullet points. Okay, this is actually a very creative way to use these as bullet points. Below is everything you need to know about this cool opportunity. Small team, interesting business, freelance, contract, monthly payments, great cash, 2,500 monthly. In this case, it would be more. Lots of learning opportunities. Heroku, GitHub. Cool, great. This is also nice. This emoji. Lots of learning opportunities. Amazon, Heroku servers. Okay. So if I expand on, yes, that's for the other role. If I expand on this, and I can probably just build up on what you just shared. So a small team, interesting business. So what does it mean? I like to add some meaning to these features. I'm not sure if I talked about these features and benefits during these webinars, but usually I covered it in the program, Tech Recruitment program. The feature is something that is that describes the product or the team or the subject itself. So for example, a small team, that's a feature of the team. It's small. What else? Say as a team, right? But what is the benefit for the candidate? What is the benefit for the candidate of the small team? Well, the benefit is that the candidate can talk directly to the CTO, which in a larger team he couldn't, right? Like imagine a bank, for example. The new joiner would probably never see the CTO, right? Or maybe just once in a quarter during some all hands presentation. So that's the benefit of the feature for the particular candidate. On the other hand, if you have some bank, corporation, it's a large organization, right? But itself, it's also boring, right? You just say, hey, it's a bank, it's a corporation. It's like, well, so what? But the benefit is, for example, that it is much more stable. So the benefit of the corporation for the candidate is in its stability. So you can say, for example, if you have a smaller team such as this one, you can say, hey, dear candidate, if you join this small team, you will be able to talk directly to the CTO. On the other hand, if you have a candidate to be considered for some corporation, you can say, hey, dear candidate, this is a corporation, this is a larger company, which is actually great because it's so much more stable and you don't have to worry about your salary payment, right? which is usually the case or the trouble with smaller companies. They may not have money for salaries here and there. So it just reminded me, that the difference between features and benefits, because features itself are super boring. I'm not saying this exactly, but in general, the features are like, so what? We can also look at some of these features here. For example, for example, if I oh yeah, like there is one that I talk about usually during the screening call. I mentioned that, for example, they build a data aggregation platform, which itself is sort of boring, or like, so what, like it's data aggregation platform. But they always say like, hey, it's a data aggregation platform, and they do a lot of data engineering, data processing, big data. And as you know, this is really cool and hot these days. So you can learn a lot about this very hot domain, data analytics and big data. And usually candidates on the phone like, oh yeah, true, right? Like suddenly you take the boring feature and you make it more interesting and more exciting for the candidate. Or actually the other thing, which is not mentioned right here somewhere, probably, just, they don't create blockchain themselves, but they what do they do? They aggregate data from different blockchains. So they analyze data from blockchains. So I also say during those calls, like, hey, they collect data from different blockchains, which actually means that you can learn how do blockchains work, because they work with 220 different blockchains. And as you know, blockchains are really cool and hyped these days. So it's a great opportunity to learn how do they actually work. And again, you take some boring feature and you make it as a very interesting benefit for the candidate. So coming back to Matej, for example, you can say a small team, so you can talk or you can work directly with the CTO every day, right? And that's a huge selling point, especially for juniors. For example, now when you mentioned, Sylvia, that you send it to candidates for a junior Python position, like this could be a huge selling point for them, because usually junior developers work somewhere with other junior developers, especially in a larger organization, right? Like usually they, well, hard to generalize, but you know how it is with onboarding and everything in larger organizations. But in a smaller team, the CTO just cannot escape. They are, probably just in one room, if on site, or in one Slack channel, everyone. So this is a huge benefit for a junior developer, to be in touch with someone senior. A freelance contract, monthly payments, a great cash, 2,500 euro monthly. Lots of learning opportunities. Cool. So coming back to this position, senior front-end developer, what do we write him? And if any of you guys have an idea or you are typing it, then please paste it in chat and I'll expand further. So this is totally valid point, even for this company. They are just roughly 10 developers. Freelance contract monthly payments, great cash, lots of learning opportunities. I would type, for example, they aggregate data from 200 or let's say 220 blockchains, so you can learn about data or big data and blockchain. both very popular and trending these days. Okay, so on top of your regular skills, React, TypeScript, Next.js, Redux, you will also learn big data and blockchain. Like, where else can you get this? It's like a huge benefit, right? So we can say, hi, Mathieu. I see you work with Next.js, Next.js, and I'm working with an engineering team at XYZ. They have fundraised, or they got money from investors, or they fundraised. They closed another fundraising series. They closed another fundraising round and are expanding their team. You don't also want to write too much, right? So we need to find some balance between being too verbose and too boring. We don't want just to send him 3 bullet points, two words each, and that would be it. So I see work with Next.js and work with engineering team. They close and are expanding their team. I would probably copy this first to get him interested and excited. They aggregate data from 220 blockchains. So you could learn about big data and blockchain, both very popular and trending technologies these days. And it's okay that you also write 4 to 5,000 euro monthly, and I would probably just shorten it like this per month. Freelance contract, monthly payments, great cash, lots of opportunities to grow. In this case, I would drop it because I already have this other part. And the call to action, would you like to discuss it? It's just one of many ways, right? It's good to have something at the beginning, something that indicates that you visited his profile and you know what he does. You can go even further. I see work with Next.js at C Poland, and I'm working with an engineering team at XYZ in Germany, right? And now it looks very personalized. They closed, or you can just continue which closed. So it's not they, like we need to find some balance between presenting as we are the company. We are not part of the company, but we just, I would find some balance. Which closed another fundraising round and are expanding the team. And so the company is expanding the team. Okay, so probably something like this, but some really cool hook in the subject of the message. So what could be? We don't want to send something like a new job or a job in Next.js. He receives a lot of these. So how about something like front end for 220 blockchain data points, or data, because they collect data from 220 blockchains, and then they have many more data points. So something like, some number, something that would be like, oh, what is this? What is front end for 220 blockchain data, or blockchains, front end for data from 220 blockchains. Maybe something like this. And it actually doesn't really matter that sometimes it doesn't make sense right away, because it is supposed to trigger some curiosity. You don't want to explain everything in the subject, because then he may not even open up the message. You want to be a little mysterious, to add some more curiosity. So something like this: front end for data from 220 blockchains. And then he opens up like, front end for 220 blockchains. Like, what is it? Like, there is front end, which we know that he's a front end developer. So he'll be like, front end for what? Like, show me more, or tell me more. And then he will start reading. Hi, Matze, I see you work with, or you can say, I see you build front end. That would be better, probably. I see you build front end with Next.js, because then it will be related to the front end in the subject. So I see you build front end with Next.js at CPO, and I'm working with an engineering team at X, Y, and Z in company which closed another fundraising round and is expanding the team. They aggregate data from 220 blockchains, so you could learn about big data and blockchain, both very popular in training these days. So while building the website, you could also learn about small team, freelance contract. Would like to discuss it. So something like this, I would totally send. Exciting FE fintech opportunity, like front end. Yes. Yeah, Diana, that also sounds good. It's just, I'm not saying you should not use it by any means. I would probably not send it, because it's very straightforward. And I mean, it is straightforward, so it sounds probably logical, but in fact, it is too revealing, right? You reveal what it is about right away. Front end opportunity, exciting front end opportunity. So it doesn't trigger the curiosity, and he may just skim through it like, oh, I'm not interested in another opportunity, without actually even learning what it is. So I'm not saying you should not use it. It's just try to find some angle where you don't reveal everything, rather trigger some more curiosity. So he is a little more engaged, opens up the message, starts reading. So this is like one of these techniques in marketing, where like really good marketeers, they don't usually make very straightforward email subjects, but they rather trigger some curiosity. So you open up the email, start reading, and then they have you hooked. So it's just some of the tips from marketing. Like I'm not figuring these things out myself, or ideating. It's just I take what works in marketing, and we are applying it now in recruitment. So I'm glad you find it useful. And the timing is also good. Like also last week we finished like 1 minute before 6 p.m. and also today. So it cannot be coincidence, right? Good timing. It's really important. So thanks guys for joining me. I'll definitely send this message to Maciej, and if he responds, which I believe he will, then I'll let you know what did he respond, and if we submitted him to the client. So meanwhile, guys, if you have any candidates that you could share with us, feel free to go to our vendor portal. If you are not yet, then you can go to a website called recruitinstantly.com, and you can join us. So feel free to just go to this website and fill in an application, and we will discuss details later. If you guys have any questions, now would be the right time to ask before we wrap it up. We have about 30 seconds, so it has to be some really quick question. You can ask about, I don't know, the weather here in Slovakia, and I can respond it right away. It's the sun is shining, wonderful, a little too hot. So yeah, it's been fun. Hopefully you guys learned something new when it comes to Next.js, Next.js. Don't forget about these iterations, and enjoy writing creative messages to developers. So have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you soon. The mind map, Priyanka. Yeah, definitely.
It's 6 o'clock.
It is. You can also go to the https itrecruitermindmaps.com, and you can get the whole booklet. Like there are like 28 or 29 by now, all these mind maps. So check it out. Have a good day, everyone. Cheers. Bye. Bye.